episode brought to you by Carbon Health. You guys know Carbon Health. I love Carbon Health. I talk about them all the time. They're known for having over 120 locations that handle urgent care, COVID, RSV, flu testing, vaccinations, but you should also know that they expanded into primary care services that also include connected health, which means that the idea of health isn't just about our bodies, which is obviously very important, but it's also about our mind. Carbon Health providers come connected with mental health specialists as well. They expanded their primary care services in 2023. If you're in Massachusetts, you can have access to the connected care there as well, and it's expanded from California all the way to Massachusetts. Carbon Health, excellent urgent care and testing center, but don't sleep on their primary care services. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Sith Council. We are going to be talking about the Mandalorian season finale, and the good news for a lot of you people is that Mike's not here. So just Steph and I will actually be able to speak. No, I'm just kidding. No,
we love Mike.
We do love Mike, but let's call it what it is. Anyway, we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian, and we are going to be diving deep into Season 3, the finale, obviously, what we liked, what we didn't like, all those different things. If you're looking for a hate fest, you come to the wrong channel. If you're looking for a love fest, you come to the wrong channel. If you're looking for a show that we're going to talk about both what we loved and what we didn't, then you've come to the right show in Star Wars Sith Council. Big thing. So thanks for joining us here today. You can find us on Spotify. We're on Spotify on video, obviously. We're also on Apple, what's it called?
Podcast.
Thank you. Apple Podcasts. We're on that as well. If you want to come see us live, you can come see us live in person. We're going to be doing Sith Council with myself, Mike, and Steph. We're going to be doing a little Capes and Cowls with me, Winston, and Coy. We're going to be doing a full Big Thing episode as well with me, Brett, and Roxy, and Kate, and all that. You can come see it live at Flappers Comedy Club on April 28th. We're all going to be there doing some stand-up up top. And if you can't see it, you can't be there in person, although I hope you could be. If you can, you can watch us live. And you can go to thekristianharloff.com. You can stream it. Well, I'm not going to be able to watch it. It's late on the East Coast. Well, then watch it tomorrow, the day after, on April 29th. You can do that as well. And the live stream just holds. So you can get the live stream now, thekristianharloff.com. We hope that you join us. You can get one of those shirts that we have over there on TeePublic, Sith Council, Big Thing, whatever it is. You can go and you can join us. Today's show, we're also going to be talking about some Andor Season 2 news, the Ahsoka build-up. Damon Lindelof wishes luck to the future team of his project that he called a labor of love. We'll go into all that and more on Sith Council. It is Sith Council. It's myself. It's Steph Sabraw. Here we go.
I can feel your anger. It gives you focus, makes you stronger.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sith Council. It's myself and nobody. Steph Sabraw
I'm
here.
Grogu's adopted mother.
You are.
They just didn't say it in the show, but
But you are.
I am.
What did you say? You said it would be I guess Grogu Sabraw or Sabraw Grogu.
yeah, Sabraw Grogu.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean,
Or Steph
semantics
Grogu.
here. He can go by Din Grogu until he realizes
What's what?
who's mommy.
Yeah, right. I understand. You're like Rhea Ripley. You don't know what that means?
No.
Okay. That's fine. I'm excited to fall off the table. I'm excited to do a live show with you. We've never done that before, like a full in-person type of show. And I think that's where the three of us, me, you, and Mike on stage, is going to be trouble.
Oh my gosh.
It's gonna be trouble.
Especially with the all of you at home who watch the show.
They get it.
You get it.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be me and you making fun of Mike and
Right.
laughing, and then
And everyone's gonna be with us.
yeah, Mike doing what? Yeah, go ahead. What? And then go ahead. You start.
What is
So I gotta give you a point.
yeah, so I love this year.
Hold on, Steph.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's okay.
Savage.
Now, if you watch this particular thing, there's too many lightsabers in Star Wars. Can you believe it?
Well, I love Star Wars.
I mean, I love it too, but
Mike!
that's what's gonna happen. He
You're
was
beloved.
great. He was great at the wedding, by the way. He was a lot of fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we hung out.
He's a great
Right.
time.
He is. It was fun to hang out with him and Shannon. It was good to see Shannon again. But anyway, let's talk about this episode. And like I said in the up top, because I saw some people last week on Twitter, and people were saying like, "Oh, you guys are just you're negative all the time." I was like, "That's not negative. We talk about the things we love. We talk about things we don't, and you guys gotta." understand what show you're watching. If you're looking for the everything is awesome, there's a lot of everything is awesome shows. There's a lot of people who just hate things, and too, there's a lot of those channels. That's not this. We're just going to talk about things we liked, things we didn't like, and like I did on my spoiler review, I want to start with the things that I liked. You walked in and said exactly what I was feeling, and that this show delivered on the stuff we wanted. This episode delivered on what we wanted it to this week. It stayed consistent with a lot of stuff it has been doing. The action was fantastic.
Yeah.
The overall, it gave you. It had lightsaber fights. It had the Darksaber fights. It had the Force. It had space battles. It had fights. It had drama. It had all the science fiction elements to it as well. It delivered on that aspect for sure. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think it gave a great finale for what the show has given the season. It was a finale for this season.
Yeah, and I think that's what. It starts out, again, spoiler heavy, but the other thing that I said to you that you agreed with is that this episode to me could have been one episode combined with 7.
Oh, for sure.
Because someone posted, well, it was 40 minutes. It was not 40 minutes. It was 32 minutes. If you cut out the 2 minutes up top of the what happened before and then the 5 or 6 minutes of credits, it's a 33 minute episode. But inside of that 33, again, keeping it positive, it was entertaining from start to finish, and it starts with Bo-Katan and the whole crew running out, and it was just pure organized chaos.
Yeah, I did love the action, and I love the shots. It was kind of giving me TLJ vibes and how it was shot a little bit. And I thought that like the scenes where all of the Mandalorians are flying in just looked sick, and then versus the stormtroopers who now are like all in Mandalorian gear going at each other is awesome.
Yeah,
like,
because
if you pitched that to me, I'm like, hell yeah, that's awesome.
And threats, and they had, and you believe that they were actual threats, that it wasn't.
Yeah, I was actually on the edge of my seat for a lot.
Yeah, because it didn't seem like stormtroopers were like, well, they can't shoot anything. Stormtroopers, this is not a threat. Nobody's gonna die. We saw what happened to Paz Vizsla. Like, it's clearly there is a threat. I didn't love that they didn't even mention Paz Vizsla once. Even his son just got kind of put in the water, but like. Didn't give anyway.
Yeah, there's not that depth.
No, and we'll get into that in a second. But the stuff that the stuff that was really good was the threat was there for sure. The action was there. You know what I loved? No stupid spy thing of the armorer being bad.
Yeah,
I would have hated that. It would have been so stupid. It would have made no sense.
But who is? So they just put the spies plural.
The spy was Katie O'Brien.
Yeah, but why was it the spies?
I think that there was someone had mentioned it, and probably they'll put it in the comments here too. There's another one. I guess was it someone on the inside from the Empire or something? I can't remember what it was. Someone said there was some kind of breaker or whatever. I don't remember. But either way, it wasn't any of the Mandalorians. It wasn't Axe. It wasn't the armor, and that made so much sense. Like,
or the newbies, the pirate Mandos.
Yeah, why in the world would the armorer be a spy?
I agree. I just think that they set it up to be like there's someone on the inside who's a spy.
Yeah, and it was, but Katie O'Brien's character was the main spy because she was the one who, without her intel,
you wouldn't have known that.
You wouldn't have known that the Mandalorians were even going to be there. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I loved. And I'll stick to the positive part of what I loved about it was that the cloning idea of with Moff Gideon, when he's going, this is not, you guys have your own thing you want to do. You want me to do cloning? Okay, I'll do cloning. And he starts cloning himself. Great storyline. I wish it would have been built up a little bit more through the season. I wish we would have seen that earlier because it was so abrupt. It's like, here's all his clones, and then all his clones are dead. But the idea and the thought of we're cloning Moff Gideon and he wants to put the Force, and that's why he wants Grogu. Well, shit, that makes a lot of sense from season 1 now. Like, okay, it's like that's the big reveal. Again, it felt abrupt, but the actual story point, that was pretty great.
Yeah, I agree. I just rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Ego's the villain, and I feel like Moff and Ego actually have pretty similar vibes in a lot of ways. They're like they're narcissistic and they're like, I'm freaking awesome. Right. And then I'm going to just take what I need to make something even more freaking awesome. Yeah. And clone these people. But I agree. So I like it. It's like how I feel about every way I talk about the season. I loved a lot of the things. I think that there is a part of me that's like, oh, like, I wish the execution was a little different, but I still did very much enjoy this episode. My favorite part probably was the Din and Grogu actually teaming up. Like, this was the first time they were utilizing each other in different ways.
Yeah, and it wasn't too goo goo gaga that it got lost.
Yeah, and it felt like specific and intentional, and I was like, okay, this is really dope watching them together.
It had a master and apprentice vibe to it. It had that thing to where he relied on him to do certain things the way that Din would help him in that fight. Grogu would help him in that fight. Like when the guards were coming over and Grogu would just push stuff out of the way. And like, that was great. And you could see the guards getting frustrated. Like, what the hell? I'm trying to do this. And he's tossing it off the side. And I think that also the scene with R5, I really liked a lot. And I didn't talk about that on my spoiler review. I really liked that scene because what it did was it threw back classic kind of R2 vibes and classic Star Wars moment where open up each thing. Okay, now open this one, and he's preoccupied with some of the little mouse droids. I thought it was a great Star Wars moment, and I thought if you would have pitched it to me years ago, and then the droid's going to get too many of the mouse droids away, so he's got to fly away. And I'm like, come on, the flying away. I'm like, well, R2 had boosters. Why wouldn't he?
Right.
So I thought that I actually didn't. I'm glad that we brought that up because I didn't talk about that in my spoiler review. I actually really liked that moment a lot.
I liked that moment a lot, too. I love the tension, the suspense, the build-up.
Yes.
Like, the communication between Din and R5 and just the growth. We didn't get much character arc or growth with Din at all this season, and what I was hoping to. I was hoping for him to challenge his own belief system within the Mandalorian creed. But I do like that he's now relying on droids in a way that he wouldn't have in season 1, and it built for a really cool scene.
That's a good point as well too. And let's jump to the end real quick because it is another thing that I really like. I was confused. I saw this all over the place that there are tons of people that were like, oh, this felt like the series finale. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like they were like, oh yeah, even someone in the comment section for the spoilers like, oh, come on, man. I say, I love you, but that felt like the series finale. I'm like, because they said that Din was kind of just sitting on the, on the farm, hanging out with his son. Sure. But here's the difference. We've already got an announcement that Dave Filoni's doing a movie. We've already so if Dave Filoni never had this announcement and it was like this, and Favreau hadn't said there's no ending in sight for it, then it could have felt like that because there was no announcement of anything too. But knowing that what it also played to me more so than a series finale, it played like, well, we had an idea for Rangers of the New Republic. It isn't happening in the way that we wanted it to, but we liked the story. So, we were sitting around on set one day going, well, instead of, having the ex-rebel running around doing these missions for the New Republic, why don't we just make season 4 Din and Grogu going on missions for the New Republic? But we take it back old school, like season 1. He's still doing bounties and stuff, but now he's doing bounties for the New Republic on the side. It's a cool pitch.
Yeah, it is a cool pitch. I do understand where people are coming from.
You think it did right?
Yeah, I think from like a standpoint of if I wasn't on Sith Council and paying attention to the news every week, then I might be like, okay, I could see this being a pretty good end, not realizing what else they could do with it. I do wonder, like, to me, I'm not a huge Adventure of the Week type person. I think there's a way to execute it, but like growing up, I loved Charmed, and I think that's those times are kind of past. As a viewer, we change and evolve, and I think like I will, as a viewer, need something to anchor me other than an Adventure of the Week.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, our biggest concern on a lot of Bad Batch was Adventure of the Week because you get lost after a while, and I think that when they do that in Mandalorian, sometimes you get lost in it. But remember though that when Mandalorian season 1 started, it could have been an Adventure of the Week where he goes up, he arrests Horatio Sands, and you're like, well, what's this adventure that he's going on? And say, well, we got this bounty for you, which turned out to be the actual story. So I think he's going to be going on little adventures with Grogu, which will feel like you say as well with the Adventures of the Week. But you start building out what the through line of the actual story is because they have to connect to the movie. They have to connect to the overall universe because they have season 4 of Mandalorian. They have Ahsoka season 1 and potentially season 2. And they have Skeleton Crew. Now, whether that's 1 or 2 seasons, I don't know. But those are all the shows that have to build before Filoni's movie in 2026, maybe 2027. So you have that build up. So you have to tell more of just Avengers of the Week because you're building out a story, which is, I guess, a not really a criticism for me, but interesting that there was more setup in episode 7 about Thrawn and what could potentially come than there's no throw to Ahsoka at all in this, which I thought was interesting. Not a critique, just interesting considering that show is coming out in August. It has Rebels. It has people who liked Ahsoka and Rosario Dawson and Clone Wars fans on board. But the casual fan who just watches Mandalorian wasn't given a, you got to watch this when it comes out in August because it's relevant to this. Does that make sense?
So I'm like getting more and more kind of not afraid, but nervous for the viewers who haven't watched Rebels or Clone Wars coming into these new shows and this movie, because it's like you really have to pay attention to care if you're going to tell the type of story that they did in Mandalorian, which is more fun.
Yeah.
And kind of like pew pew type, which I really loved. I did actually enjoy the season, but it's not like in Andor, which pretty clearly sets up all its characters, and you don't really need backstory to understand their motives and where they could go.
The writing is significantly better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's significantly better.
I know.
It is this Mandalorian is meant for the pure, just fun spectacle, and I thought it had a little bit more depth to it. The way that I kind of equated it on the spoiler review this morning was that I feel like this season, I liked this season of Mandalorian. I did. Not as much as 1 and 2. I thought 1 and 2 were much better because they had more to it. And the way that I equated it was, this was a good sandwich with not enough meat on it. And I was still hungry afterwards. 1 and 2, good sandwiches. It was full. This one, I'm still hungry. And like, maybe the Ahsoka, maybe that sandwich.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt about it, because there was a few things, again, that I thought they did very well that had kind of subpar conclusions, right? And one of those examples is Katie Sackhoff was the star of the show. She was the star of this season, hands down. And she did everything that she was asked to do. And again, I say this whether we're friends with Katie or not. She did everything she was asked to do. She knew the character inside and out. She was kind of asked to carry the majority of the scenes, and the relationship with Bo-Katan and Din developed throughout the series. There's a fantastic moment in episode 7 where she's kind of questioning herself, and she's saying, she's just kind of standing there thinking, and Din's like, "I got your back. Like you have my loyalty. I am there for you." Doesn't even say goodbye. Just leaves at the end of this episode. No, there's no moment.
Yeah.
There's no moment between the two of them. They spent this whole entire thing. She saved his life. He gave her the Darksaber. They had like this amazing moment. There's not even a moment. There's no moment where he walks up and goes, "We're off. We're doing our thing. You did it. There's a reason why they're following you. We'll always be in touch." She says something back. It's a 2-minute conversation at most. Off in your ship. Nothing. And that's why, again, I bring up these 32-minute episode things. It's like you have the time to really build out, like you said, it was missing a little bit of the depth. The episode was good, but with depth, it could have been great.
Yeah, I feel like I run into this territory that I know is a lot of you at home's criticism with people who talk about Star Wars, is like your expectations are ruining your viewing experience, and like your expectations are too high, and I feel that, but it's also like I have to question, like, when you go into season 1 and even season 2 of The Mandalorian, this is new territory for Star Wars in terms of the show style and the characters. And so there wasn't as many expectations and so you're like, this is awesome. And then now first season and second season were fantastic. That it's like, I think human nature to have expectations. And when you have put in the Star Wars work and watched Rebels and Clone Wars, you're like, no, the Mandalore is just a breeding ground for great.
There's so much more there. And I think, like I said, like they show the stuff that really worked was when episode 2, Din and Bo are talking about Bo's past. And for people who've never watched Rebels before or Clone Wars, they're learning about her history and they're learning about her family dynamic. And I think they're going to build on that more.
Yeah, can you imagine if they did like a 30-minute cut into that episode, similar to what they did with Dr. Pershing?
Yeah.
But with Bo, flashback
When she's younger,
in the watch.
Yeah, and you see
Younger to in the watch.
Yes, and you see Satine
And Sabine.
And yeah, well,
giving
Sabine. Yeah, right. At that point
like
as well,
those
too.
important
and
moments of
playing
her
into
life.
it. They could have added more to it to reveal. So I don't think it's a matter of expectations as much as it's because people you see it all the time. Oh, that's what I always talk about with the everything is awesome stuff. It's just like, well, just love what you got.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but I did like what I saw, but don't you think it could have been elevated?
Yeah.
With like better writing, it's like, and it's not that it was. This doesn't. I don't think it suffered the same problem as like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan to me just had bad writing. This didn't have bad writing. This had like I said, it was just not enough meat on the sandwich. It was like it's like you start like say you go and you order like a sandwich and like the stuff that they're putting on it, it's really good. There's just not enough of it.
Yeah.
Like that's all it is. It's like it wasn't because it was just like with some of Boba Fett, you're like, oh, this meat's rotten. You throw out the sandwich. But this particular thing was just like, oh, it's right there. It's right there. These little things that seem like I mentioned with the Moff Gideon. Why did they save Moff Gideon in episode 6? We all knew he was coming back. You could have built him out a little bit more and built that storyline out about the clones, and that's your storyline about how he's
and that council, the Shadow Council.
Right. That Shadow Council scene in episode 7 is one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars television. Star Wars television. It was such a deep dive into the politics of it all, the future of it was the most well-written, elaborate thing. It took 3 to 5 minutes to use that on screen. Those types of moments is that was the meat of the sandwich, like that type of stuff.
Yeah, because as we get more aware of viewers, like I think it was with the original trilogy, you like kind of definitely buy into the story they tell you, which is like Palpatine is kind of this all-powerful that uses Darth Vader. What you don't really realize is that like it takes a village. Like there's a lot of like important major leaders with a lot of power, including Thrawn, that helped navigate Palpatine into the position he's in. It's not just one man in the galaxy who owns everyone.
I love that story. I think that story is great, and it fills in so many gaps. And it's like it really is my biggest criticism. It's not that I don't like what they did there. That story was corny. No, they just didn't have enough of it.
More cowbell.
Yes, way more cowbell. It just wasn't enough of it, and it was like. Because I don't know what it is about this 32 minute. Like I said, I saw someone quote, it was about 40 minutes. It was not. Look at it and watch when you're watching. It's about 32 or 33 minutes. And it's like for a finale. Now when you combine it with episode 7, it's like an hour and 15 minutes. And I think this season could have been 5 episodes. I'm watching Blackbird on Apple. Have you watched? Holy crap.
It's good. Apple's really doing
good.
Great.
Blackbird is phenomenal.
Okay.
It's Paul Walter Hauser and Taron Egerton and the late great Ray Liotta. And it is 6 episodes, an hour apiece. I'm approaching episode 3. It tells its story. Now, granted, it's based off a true story and it's a darker story and everything too, but it's just the reference of tell your story in hour blocks but make it 5 episodes. You can combine episode 1 and 2, tell the same story, add a little bit more dialogue here and there, sprinkle it in there, combine all of them, get rid of that freaking Lizzo and Jack Black episode. That to me was the filler that you were talking about, like the side adventure stuff that did nothing for the plot, except the beginning and the end of that.
Yeah, and there was just there's just some scenes that I'm like, okay, for example, in this finale, where you rebaptize or whatever you want to call it, the kid who was Paz's son. I don't need to see that.
Yeah, I think the only reason that they did it, this is going to make both of our points. The only reason they did that is because it was Paz just died, and it was the understanding that they were kind of bringing him into the fold as kind of the new thing and honoring his dad. But honor his dad.
Yeah.
Honor his dad. Show a little bit more. Say a couple of words. Have Din say a couple of words for him. I understand why, because Paz got taken out by those guards and brutally murdered by them. and didn't even stand a chance. Din was starting to get his ass kicked by them too, because he was putting up more of a fight. Like, well, why is he putting up more of a fight? He used to kick Paz's ass when they fought. That's why.
Yeah,
And,
I mean,
yeah.
That's the problem. This season, people forgot what a badass Din is.
That's right. And so when Grogu then had to step in, you're like, okay, they had to team up. And this goes to another thing that I liked, and I'm still trying to figure it out, how I feel overall, because I understand people's criticism with it, and I don't know yet how I feel about it. The Darksaber.
Oh, yeah.
So they have the Darksaber, and Din is fighting Moff Gideon, and it's like, okay, well, is Din going to take him out? And then Moff Gideon has this suit, and he's able to kind of starts kicking Din's ass, and then here comes Bo. And then Bo brings in the Darksaber, and you're like, okay, well, Bo's going to take him out. And Bo's fighting the Darksaber. Now, the thing that I understand, when he crushes the lightsaber, right? I understand why they did it, because the understanding has always been for thousands of years that the Mandalorians needed the Darksaber in order to unite the clans, in order for people to have respect for them, in order to lead anyone. You needed that thing. And it eliminated that when Bo says Mandalorians need each other, and they start fighting the three of them against him, and they ultimately win. So I get that. I'm not crazy about the fact that he just crushed it with his hand. It's a 1,000-year-old relic or whatever it is. And he's just like, he's the only person in history that could have done that.
Well, his suit was like turbo turned up.
I mean, I get it, but I mean, Darth Maul couldn't have destroyed it if he wanted to. Maybe why would he have wanted to? But I mean, I don't know. Couldn't have other people have destroyed it in the past with other things? Like, it was that easy that he just broke it.
I do feel that, and I feel like I wonder what they would have written, but I would have liked somehow to have like Bo decide that.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need this anymore. We need. I like the line delivery. It's about each other. Like, we'll do it together.
Right. I understand why they did it. I get why they did it, to show the unity inside of the Mandalorians, and even the moment that we've kind of seen already from season 1, where Grogu saves them all, and in the fire was a cool moment.
I love that.
It was a cool moment, and they kind of reused some of the music and stuff from the episode with Luke when he was doing the Force and showing how much more powerful he is. That worked. I loved Axe coming in with the ship, and I love because at first you're like, oh, is he going to sacrifice himself?
Right.
And he jumps out the window. He's a jetpack on. Why wouldn't you jump out the window?
Yeah, and they did a good job there. Famuyiwa, I would say, of like giving that, like, one of the Mandalorians looked back like kind of like this way where you're like, is he the spy? But you're like, nah, he's not.
Why would he be at that point? And then
right
away you knew the armor wasn't when she started busting heads open.
And she was like, yeah.
Why would she be killing the other troopers if she was on their side? So I was like, thank God. When she starts cracking people with the axe, I'm like, okay, good. Because it's just, these people were so confident she was going to be bad. I'm like, why do people want her to be bad?
I think people just wanted a twist.
Yeah, but there was no twist, minus like there was a twist, and it was the cloning thing, but it was like gone. He's like, oh wait, they're Gideon's clones, blow them up, and which is what you should do. I mean, a lot of times you're like, oh, what should we do? I don't know what we should do. And then he comes in and he saves, he's able to save the clones. He's like, no, we found them, blow them up, but it just wasn't set up at all that's what he was doing. And when you finally,
he had to say it in exposition.
Yeah, because I loved when he was just like, I had this idea, giving him the Force. That's what I wanted Grogu for, and you took that from me before they could even breathe. And there's some theory going around now that the one that they killed was actually a clone and not Gideon. Let this storyline.
Oh my God, that would be nuts.
Let this storyline be over.
Yeah, Moff has now had like a revival. I don't think you can like re-revive.
Let it be over.
Like, if Gamora dies again, we're not going to bring back a new Gamora.
Yeah, well, the only reason I wish they would have killed him differently is chop off his head so we know that he's over. Because like you never really saw him die. You just saw him kind of get disintegrated in the fire. You would assume that he's dead.
I think I agree. Where's the body? But also it's like, Grogu had to pull out this complete maneuver to survive.
Yes, chances are that he's gone. And I think that you don't need him anymore, as much as I love Giancarlo. He's the best. But you don't need him anymore.
No.
Because especially if you're going to play with Thrawn and you're going to start to tie in all of this stuff.
The whole council.
Then you got to. It's like, but look, it could get exhausting for you guys. And that's why you need a good diet. That's right. And I got Green Chef for you. I love Green Chef. I got to tell you about them. I love Green Chef. I'll tell you about them right now. Here we go. Green Chef, guys. I've talked to you guys about a little bit more about Green Chef recently, and they've been sending stuff to my family. Oh man, it's so good. It's so delicious. The chicken and the beef and everything about it. It's really, really good. I hope that you guys have tried it already. It is a CCOF certified meal kit company. If you didn't know, it makes eating well as easy, really easy, and it has these plans to fit every lifestyle, whether it's keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or you're just looking to eat more balanced meals. Green Chef offers a range of recipes to suit your preferences. I did this too, by the way. I had this. I do like a stir fry with it. I put like the brown rice with it. It's so good. It's convenient. It's easy. It's really, really good. You can bring more flavor to your table this spring with Green Chef's wholesome, elevated recipes. They have the seasonal, they have organic produce and unique farm fresh ingredients like rainbow carrots, bok choy, and olives. It's incredible. They have the options that, they have these different meal kits, and I took the family style, which is what I really like. It's the #1 meal kit for eating well with dinners that work for you, not the other way around. It's amazing. If you're craving like a particular recipe, you can double the portions in your weekly order with just one click. They offer more customization now than they ever did beforehand, and you can swap protein in any meal that features chicken, beef, or salmon for USDA certified organic ground beef, USDA certified organic chicken, wild-caught sockeye salmon, and you can now add chicken or fish to select vegan and veggie recipes each week for that protein boost. I love it, man. I had it. I've had it a couple different times, but I just got these two right before I left for the wedding. These 2 big boxes that were sent, and man, like everything that was sent in there, it's like a lot of these other boxes they send. Sometimes they send like stuff you don't need. Everything in there. I'm like, oh, I definitely want that. I want that. I give different options to cook. So many different healthy meals, but just delicious meals, tasty meals. So good, so good. I did this like pesto chicken that they sent that I made. Oh, so yummy. The beef's fantastic too. Make these little burgers. My wife made a whole bunch of burgers. When I got back, I had one waiting for me. Anyway, you want to go over to greenchef.com/thing60. You got to use that code thing60. And why? Why do you use thing60? Because you get 60% off plus free shipping. Did you hear that deal? 60% off. Try it. It's worth just trying. I never heard of this thing before. Well, now you just heard about it, and now you get 60% off. So do it. It's really, really great. We absolutely love it. Please go and check it out. It is Green Chef. So thank you once again to our friends over at Green Chef. Organic chicken, organic beef. Like it is. I've been making like this stir fried. Oh, Steph.
Oh, I love a good stir fry.
You got no idea. This stuff is so good. Green Chef, use that code. I'm telling you, and you help out the show. You help out yourself when you get yourself some of any one of our sponsors for sure. Okay, so again, there's really not a lot to really dive too deep into that we didn't already cover inside of it. It's just a matter of where they go next. Unless you push back at all, I do think we'll definitely get season 4. I think they're going to put it into production, probably start shooting even at the end of this year, beginning of next. And I think you get season 4 in either the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. And then you'll have 2026 for Filoni's movie. So I say 2025 is more likely that you get season 4.
I agree.
Yeah.
2025. I think that they didn't have a plan past season 2. So I think they're like really trying to figure out what that is leading to the movie.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, especially if the reports are going around about who got involved, putting them to Din and Grogu back together. People didn't want it to happen. People did want it to happen. Either way, it happened. And they made a season of it for 2. The standouts of the season, again, for me, I think Bo-Katan was a season. It was the star of the show. Katie Sackhoff,
I love Bo.
She delivered. I think that it really, this season, I don't think anybody can argue, you can try to, but you'd be wrong, is that Brendan Wayne and Lateef were the Mandalorian this season. Pedro was essentially the voice. I don't think he was on set at all.
I know. I thought we were going to have in my earlier predictions going to this season, I thought that he would go in more of the Bo-Katan's interpretation of the Creed.
Taking his helmet off.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
What, are you going to put a helmet on Grogu?
Probably.
Eventually,
maybe they're gonna have
why
to.
could he take the creed without the helmet and this little kid, Visla's son, couldn't?
I'm wondering if they're gonna start to change the rules a little bit more now that they're all together and there's certain things that the armorer will tell them can do, cannot do. The question is gonna be though. There's so many as far as like where it goes, how it's gonna happen. I don't know where we go next.
Neither do I. I think this season was. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
There were some awesome action moments. Probably some of my favorite action moments of the show in general. Bo flying with the Darksaber.
That was awesome. Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not like I need season 4 now.
Right.
But I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think that we're going to get more excited. I think that Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew, if tied in together and start to set up this storyline, will then start to ask us, well, where's Din in all of this? Where's Grogu in all of this? I think that and absence makes the heart grow fonder, right?
Yeah.
So like once we have them, like we'll be taking, because you're going to have both Ahsoka coming out in August, Skeleton Crew coming out at the end of the year, right? And then you get the Acolyte, which is a total break from the entire timeline. You're going to get Andor, which is a break from this timeline. So you'll have that big break before you get to, which most likely will be Mandalorian season 4 will be afterwards, and then Ahsoka, and then all of a sudden leading in. We'll know more so of what the overall storyline is. But going back to your question, though, about, Pedro and not to sense like there were these reports that Pedro wasn't happy on set and he wasn't and there was some other report I saw that came out recently that he that at one point, this was like the season 1 drama that had dropped, was that he wanted to be, I guess, voice actor. They wanted him as a voice actor. He wanted a larger salary, all that stuff and then they ultimately kind of came to terms. And that's what this one particular, I think it was Making Star Wars, it said this one particular report was, and then that was the end of it. I don't know if that's the end of it, because no reports have said this, but it just was curious to me. I think he was in London the day before Star Wars Celebration. People can correct me if I'm wrong on this. And then Star Wars Celebration happens. He's not there. That's odd. It's odd. You can say, oh, it was work. He had to do something. I think he could have been there if he really wanted to be there.
Yeah, like the week before your finale.
I think he's over it.
Yeah.
I think he's over it. That's my. But he's got a gig. He's got a gig. All right. What do you need me to do? Send me the lines. I'll record them. I'll send him my lines, and that's it. And I think that's why when you look at, But I agree with you. I think that you needed moments with him with his helmet off, because how powerful of a moment was that in season 1 when he takes the helmet off and he's hurting and he's like dying. The season finale and IG-11. Oh, we haven't talked about. We'll talk about IG-11 in a second. But you like that whole moment when you see and he takes it all, and when he takes the helmet off again in season 2, there was none of those moments in season 3, and I think that's telling. I think that's telling.
I do too, because it feels like the first 2 were story based, and now it feels like as a viewer, I'm like at the point where I'm ready for him to be a Mandalorian with his helmet off.
Right.
And maybe that's me just projecting my views on zealots and religion in general,
Sure.
and my love for Pedro Pascal and his face. But I really feel like the story should have his face in it.
Yeah, I think so. And maybe that's the deal that they're going to try to make as we get to season 4. Maybe they're going to try to do that, because it's just becoming a little more clear. And I think there's only so long you can hide it before it starts coming out. Even a little bit more than that. And I also think that look, we sat down, Brendan Wayne and everything too. Like, I also think it'll be more beneficial to the other actors if you get someone in there. And Brendan Wayne will tell you, compared to Pedro Pascal is a better actor than Brendan Wayne and Lateef. That's nothing against them. He's just been doing it longer, and he's, he is. And I was like, well, what do you have to do besides just kind of do the movement and the voice? I think there's more to that. And I think that when you're kind of going back and forth with someone who's been in it before, and like, look at what Carl Urban did with Dredd, right? So I think that they got to figure that out. I think they got to figure that aspect out. But I wanted to jump, you mentioned IG-11. And I think the predictable thing that I was happy with was the whole sheriff thing at the end. Like, it was like, you knew he was going to be the sheriff. We knew that, but we just didn't know how. I like the way that they did it. It was like they go to that bar. You see Filoni sitting there with the cowboy hat on. So you go into that bar, and he's like, yeah, we'll do this for you, but give us the droid head. And he's like, okay, that's it. And then they got the parts and they wound up, using them for the sheriff, which was kind of, you knew it was coming and it makes sense. And they were all excited about it. It was a good gift. And then you let Din and Grogu kind of live out on the farm and chillax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. I agree. It was like, I loved the use of Grogu in IG-11's suit. I think that especially this episode when he came in and like sprayed Din off from the
he's
fire.
like, I
was
got it. Yeah.
Comedy.
Right.
Like he's like, no, Dad, like I gotta save you. But yeah, IG-11, like not too much airtime because I think he had a great death, one of the best in Star Wars.
And it was enough, and it wasn't like a full on, straight up like
I
hey, remember all
everything.
of our moments and everything. Glad to be back. It's like, no, they just revitalized him this way. They reprogrammed him. He's going to protect the people. And that was it. They didn't have to like go back to the well and say, oh, look at this character that you loved. I thought that he handled it well because it was something I was definitely nervous about in the beginning. And that's something I wanted to give them credit to also. All right, we have a lot to talk about still because we mentioned Ahsoka, we mentioned The Acolyte, we mentioned Andor, but we have things about all of those shows that we're going to get to. And before we do, I wanted to tell you once again about our friends over at both Sunday Lawn Care and ExpressVPN. And you guys know about Sunday. I've been talking about it actually for the last couple of weeks. And, it's almost spring. Pretty much spring here. But it's almost spring. The weather's getting better. And for me, we've been working on the yard a lot. So we get everything going. And my wife's a big, she likes to make sure that spring and the flowers and new stuff's going on with the garden. And we have this lawn care now with Sunday. It makes it very easy to enjoy. And the days are longer. The flowers are blooming and you can spend a lot of time in the yard. And it's really, really good. You can reclaim your weekend, man. Reclaim your yard. Sunday's everything that you need to get the lawn that you dreamed of. If you go to getsunday.com/bigthing and you enter your address to get a customized plan created just for your lawn. There's no trips to the store or hauling heavy bags since they ship it straight to your home. You just need a hose. It's that easy. You just put it on the hose and then you apply Sunday. You can fertilize your whole lawn in less time than it takes to watch an episode of your favorite TV show. It's easy and it's affordable. Some lawn care services are for more than $1,500 a year. Sunday's full season plan starts at just $109. Yeah. Sunday is offering our listeners 20% off. These deals, guys, I'm telling you. Full season plans start at $109 and you can get 20% off, but you have to use that code. You got to use getsunday.com/bigthing and you use that at checkout. That's 20% off your custom plan at getsunday.com/bigthing. All right, ExpressVPN, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you about ExpressVPN. So I know that a lot of you guys think, why don't you use incognito mode? And a lot of people, yeah, sure, great. But let me tell you about something about incognito mode. It doesn't actually hide your activity. It doesn't matter what mode you use or how many times you clear your browsing history. Your internet service provider can see every single website that you visited. That's right. So even when I'm at home, I never go online without using ExpressVPN. We had them a while ago. So excited that they're back. I've been using them ever since. And it doesn't matter who your internet service provider is. The ISPs in the U.S. can legally sell your information to ad companies. ExpressVPN is an app that reroutes your internet connection through their secure services so your ISP can't see the sites that you visit. It keeps your information secure by encrypting 100% of your data with the most powerful encryption available. So I don't even realize that I have ExpressVPN on. It just runs seamlessly in the background. It's very easy to use. All you have to do is tap one button and you're protected. And you forget that you even have it on. It's amazing. It's available on all your devices, whether it's your phone, computer, smart TV. So there's really no excuse not to be using it. Protect your online activity and do it today with the VPN rated #1 by Business Insider. So visit my exclusive link, and that's expressvpn.com/thing. And you can get an extra 3 months free on a 1-year package. That is expressvpn.com/thing. expressvpn.com/thing to learn more. All right, once again, thank you to Sunday Lawn Care and ExpressVPN. Very excited to be working with both of them. I've been working with both Sunday and ExpressVPN is back. Very helpful. the ExpressVPNs. If you've never used VPN, you should be using Express. They're one of the best out there. Make sure you do it. And Sunday, it is so great to be able to just stick that thing on the hose and do your thing. It's worth it, and it looks wonderful. Doesn't the lawn look wonderful?
Wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Let's start with this one. All right, Steph. We talk about Andor. Andor season 2. It starts filming at the Windspit Quarry due to unfavorable weather conditions. And according to the local website, Dorset Live, filming for the second season of Andor has been temporarily suspended due to weather conditions as the risk of rock falls and landslides has increased in recent days. Production is expected to resume normally in a few days, though it's unknown exactly when. So a spokesperson for the National Trust said this. The planned filming due to take place at Windspit Quarry has been canceled due to safety concerns following the recent turbulent weather, which has increased the risk of rock falls and landslips. Visitors looking to explore the Dorset coast are advised to following signs and keeping out of unsafe areas until further surveys have been undertaken. There's a lot of stuff that says that you're going to be doing a lot of the shooting. Saw Gerrera apparently is going to have a bigger role this season, which makes a lot of sense considering that we're getting closer and closer to Rogue One. But look, let's talk about the unfavorable weather conditions and the fact that, like, when you're shooting on real locations, you're going to run into stuff like this. I mean, people forget about like the first Star Wars. There was all these sandstorms that they had to do. It's a risk that I'll take every single time for new locations. I just put out a short like yesterday. I think that the idea of the volume and having the volume is so beneficial in so many ways, but like anything else, look how reliant human beings are now of like our technology, right? Like you can be sitting down, you start checking your phone, when you don't need to be, but it's there. The volume to me is turning into that for Disney. They're using it for everything. They're using it to cut costs. They're using it to get away from risks like this. And I think that's why I think people applaud Andor so much. And I love everything I'm hearing about the Acolyte, by the way. Real locations, 55-minute episodes. It's like they're making the show for me. And then recently, and we'll get into it in a second because I want to stay on Andor, but then recently, they're looking at the Jedi as the bad guys, not doing bad guy stuff, but in the eyes of who the leads of the show are, they're the bad guys. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. But we'll get into that in a second. But Andor, there's going to be a lot of Saw Gerrera. There's other things happening. They've been avoiding questions about K2SO. Obviously, we know he's going to show up. We know Alan Tudyk's going to show up. But Andor season 2, they'll start filming soon. But because of this, is this something? I know what your answer is going to be, but I got to ask it anyway. Is this something you're like, no, they should be using the volume instead?
Oh yeah, no. I'm like, so. It was the first time ever, because I don't have the keenest eye for these things. This season of The Mandalorian, I was like...
You saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on Navarro. I definitely saw it. I think like they did a lot of what they could, but it just felt like, oh, okay, I see it.
Yeah.
And that takes you out for a second,
Right.
especially when you're already crossing this very thin line of wars and stars.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and that's why when you watch what Andor did and all the real locations that they use, I don't think they used the volume once.
Except for like the stars.
I don't even know if they did. I don't remember. It
was like all CGI.
Yeah, I think so. I think from what Diego Luna had said, I don't think he shot with it at all. But still,
Diego Luna at Celebration was so cute.
Yeah.
I feel like he like loved the fans.
Oh, he was so appreciative of it too, and you could tell that they're making cinema over there, because like when you look at what they did and how because rightfully so, he's like, after 2 guys, I'm done, because they're shooting like this massive
like movies.
This whole thing is a massive movie. Season 1 and season 2 Andor are like big movies that take a lot of effort and everything too, and you ain't getting, I mean, you did get some shorter episodes. There were a couple short episodes of Andor, but for the most part, I think they were like 40, 45 minutes. And even they were developing characters and developing other things. So I'm excited for the idea of it because I was talking to my friend Alonzo Duralde, who's not a big Star, he's not a Star Wars guy at all, but we were talking about, he wasn't a Rogue One guy, but I was like, when was the last time you saw it? Because he liked Andor. He liked Andor a lot. And I said, when was the last time you saw Rogue One? He said, yeah, probably when it came out. And I said, I wonder if Rogue One will play differently to him when season 2 of Andor is over, because Rogue One is the series finale of Andor, clearly. And I think that they're aiming towards that. And I love that they're doing that. And that's ultimately what this Mandalorian movie is going to be doing, except they haven't shot it already, like Rogue One. But I love that we're leading to it. They know their ending already, which is, I think, very beneficial to them.
Yeah, I agree. And I just think that what's really beneficial and what we're not seeing, such a give and take, which I loved in The Mandalorian season 1 and 2. You get like this plethora of different directors and people hands on deck, and I think that can do a lot of good. On the flip side, I also think it can do a lot of good to have one person with a vision who brings it to fruition. And like Andor is the perfect example of that, where you're like, Tony Gilroy was like, I'm having it this way, and then did, and it's awesome.
Well, he's the showrunner of it for sure, and he knows, and he's got a clear vision to the directors, and I think it probably is one of the reasons that it was harder for them to get the directors in season 2 and the stuff that they had to do, because, as you said, he knows exactly what he wants. The directors in television traditionally are shoot what the showrunner wants.
Yeah.
It's not the same as a movie where come up with your own vision, do things. Shoot what the showrunner wants, and I think that Leslie Headland is also going to do that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to people who weren't even aware of the Acolyte, but are aware of Leslie Headland and Russian Doll. And I was telling them, no. The Acolyte, from everything we're hearing, it's like Andor with lightsabers, but 55-minute episodes in the perspective of the villains. The Jedi are the bad guys. Not to us. People go, oh, what, they're going to make Jedi bad guys? No, the Jedi are going to have the same ideals and philosophies they always have, but the people that we're leading with, the villains, which I didn't think in a million years that they would have the balls to do. That apparently she's been very adamant that the bad guys are our protagonists or who is leading this show, and it makes sense when I saw. I mean, I looked at the leaked footage. Did you? Mm-mm. I looked at the leaked trailer, and there's a fight between Carrie-Anne Moss and the way that and it looks like Trinity, which is not a bad thing. It looks like Trinity fighting in the as a Jedi, but like against like one of the villains. But the villain did look like the person you're supposed to be following, and I was like, oh man, like everything about this show is it's tailor-made for us.
I'm so excited for it, and I love what she's been saying. I have been looking into more of the interviews after you mentioned it, and she's very clearly stated, I understand no one wants to see a Jedi as a bad guy.
Right.
Like she gets the audience. She gets Star Wars. So I really feel like she'll tell a fully dimensional story.
Yeah, it's bad guys through their eyes.
And if you look at the prequels, the Jedi did suck. Like in a lot of ways, they're
arrogant.
Don't get me wrong, I love Jedis, but they were arrogant and they were stupid and really set on their ways that are a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm just curious when if it's gonna be a reveal on set the way that they did with Luke, or they're just going to announce it at some point. Yoda has to be in this show.
Yeah.
He's like, what? He's 700 years old, 750 years old or something when the show comes out, or something along those lines. So it's like he's on the council. So and this is when the Jedi are thriving. So he's got to be in the show.
Yeah.
And you still got Frank Oz. Yeah.
Yeah, to see Yoda without the blue screen.
Yeah.
And now upgraded with the real screen.
Yeah, I think that between that and how they're going to build that out, and having Frank Oz there and be able to he'll show up. The question is how long they're going to use him. Well, they're probably not going to want to rely on him as a major character, but they'll have him on there for sure, as they should. But the other thing, we always mention about James Earl Jones. We mention all the time that one of the conversations since we started doing this show was you just noticeably could tell that he was getting older. And in Rogue One, he sounds like an older man doing the Darth Vader voice. And then in Obi-Wan, they used that AI technology that they used for Luke's voice, and it was amazing. It sounded like young Vader. So I just saw a video recently, someone tagged me in on it. They did the AI voice for Rogue One and they replaced it with the moments.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty awesome the way that they did it, and I think that that's what you're going to start to see anytime they use. And we know that with Vader now. Now the question is when they do Luke, is AI stuff? Because I think that did you have an issue? Because I remember we used to talk about this on Big Thing all the time, like when it comes to replacing actors' faces and like James Dean and all that stuff. You had an issue with it, right?
I don't love it.
You don't love it, but it's going to be a thing for sure. But where do you stand on the voice side of it? Because my buddy Brian Monarch, you see all those Arnold shorts that come out, replacing him in different things. He does all those, right? And Joe Gaudette, another buddy who does the Arnold voice. So he was doing these videos, Brian Monarch, and there was this video he did, because I know that Joe does all the Arnold stuff, and then he did this one with Rogan. I go, who's doing that Rogan impression? It's spot on. He goes, that's AI, dude. Like, straight up AI. And I'm like, whoa. Like,
that's crazy.
It had personality to it. It had all this stuff. I'm like, where do you stand on that?
I think that I'm just realizing that life is continuously changing and evolving, and this seems absolutely inevitable.
Yeah.
And I'm not this isn't my fight.
Right.
So I'm going to make peace with it. Like, I don't think I care enough to be like, no.
Right. I mean, certain voice actors are going to have interesting things on how they're going to be able to do it. And they could use, because if hey, instead of finding someone who does a Marlon Brando impression, let's just get Marlon Brando.
AI.
Let's get his voice. Let's get the things. Let's get some stuff. Let's put it into a program, and we'll get Marlon Brando. That's going to happen in the technology, the AI technology of voice program today is going to seem like CDs compared to digital.
Yeah.
Because it's going to what they're going to be able to do with it and how they're going to be able to use it, and that Luke Skywalker monotone kind of robotic, no personality voice that they used in Boba Fett will change by the time they get to, he's showing up in one of these things, whether he shows up in the movie, whether he shows up in Ahsoka. The next time you hear his voice, it's going to sound significantly better, is my prediction.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
With technology, especially that type, it's just getting better every week.
Well, look at the difference in the deepfake as opposed to when they did the de-aging in Mandalorian, and then they said, well, that doesn't look as good. Let's do the deepfake for Boba Fett, and it looked like uncanny.
Yeah.
And that was, the technology is always moving, always shifting. And I just mentioned Ahsoka. Steph brought up something before that I thought was very interesting. She said she was starting to get these kind of concerns. And the cast member kind of spoke on Steph's concerns. And they're discussing the show's accessibility to new fans, the action-packed scope, and more. So this is from Sydney Watsek over at Star Wars Newsnet. The cast of Ahsoka, they spoke with Collider after the Ahsoka panel at Star Wars Celebration, and while it's clear they have all been carefully coached to avoid spoilers, we learned some interesting bits of information nonetheless. We've completed a selection of quotes from all of the interviews, but we encourage you to read or watch the full pieces. Here we go. So Natasha Leo Bordizzo was asked on what surprised her about Dave Filoni's scripts, and had some interesting comments on whether the show will be accessible to fans who haven't watched Rebels or kept up with the Mandoverse. She says, well, there's just so much history with these characters, so there's so much subtext, which is very unique to this show because there is an existing fan base, and there's also a whole bunch of fans that are completely clueless right now that will become fans. So we had to cater to both. So the writing was very specific in doing so, and giving away enough that it's an homage to what the fans already know, but not being so cryptic that new fans can't understand it. So that was a very interesting balance to strike. I'm sure I'm not alone in wondering how successful they were at striking this balance. It's hard to believe that viewers with Rebels, it's hard to believe that viewers unfamiliar with Rebels and perhaps even behind The Mandalorian would be able to jump into Ahsoka seamlessly. That said, we are rooting for the success. They'd love nothing more to introduce Lucasfilm's animated series to newfound fan of Ahsoka. So then they talked to Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was asked what essential Hera Syndulla episodes fans should watch prior to Ahsoka's August release. She says, I would go back to not even on Rebels, but the Bad Batch. Start with that. I mean, that was so great to see her as a child, because anytime as an actor, if you can figure out what your characters were as children, it's so instrumental in figuring out who they are as a person. So that was great for me to see that childlike joy in her and desire to do that. So many episodes, you get to see her in her element, fighting, flying spaceships, and getting to do what she's assigned to do. She was just a little girl, and that joy that brings into her, and also as time goes through the series, how the stakes grow in different ways, and things become more and more complex and emotional. So, and then Winstead's referring to Bad Batch Season 1, where they had a 2-arc episode following the Syndalas. And then they also talked to Ray Stevenson about Baylan, and he had a big praise. And he said, their character-driven fight, it's not just here's a lightsaber fight. They have character. The stakes are up. You don't know who's going to come out of it and how they're going to come out of it. You may think you do, but when you're in it, that dynamic and the energy involved, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Stevenson was also asked about his relationship with Thrawn. Collider asked him, what is your relationship with Thrawn? Is it adversarial? Is it friendly? What can you tease? And Stevenson just says, yes. A bit of cheeky response that gives away nothing. We know Baylan acts as an adversary to Ahsoka, but Thrawn's individual nature tends to isolate himself from potential allies. So it is likely that Stevenson said that Baylan is friendly and adversarial with Thrawn. Speculation around Thrawn's plans continue to mount with the finale of The Mandalorian. And now Ahsoka right around the corner. Well, we know there was nothing inside of that for The Mandalorian. Another question was then asked to Rosario Dawson. They said, out of all the episodes for the season, did they have a favorite? Rosario Dawson attempted a cagey response while suspiciously holding up 5 fingers. Look out for episode 5. Dawson also spoke about surprising elements in the Ahsoka script, drawing an interesting comparison between what we see in Ahsoka and what we've seen from the character in Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. Dawson says, it was so nice to dive into where they're at emotionally. We didn't get to see that or explore that so much in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. It sort of hints at it, but I think that you get to see that sacrifice that they're grappling with and the vigilance that it takes for them to still know there was a threat out there and they have to be on top of it. It's lonely business. To be out there fighting is a threat and that people don't even believe it's real. It's really exciting as we go along. That's just how it was seated in the context and the subtext for the fans who know and the fans who don't. It was really nice. And then, let's see, this is the last one. Finally, they had an interview with Ivanka Sanko, who had a noteworthy comment about what Filoni brought to the show. I think Dave has done a brilliant job of expanding our understanding of lightness and darkness and spectrum and what comes with it. What I love about him is that he loves silence and speaking through silence. Okay, so there's a lot to kind of break down there. So what do you think about the idea that they're going to attempt to do this balance? It seems inevitable that a lot of people, that new people who come into this show are going to be like, wait, so who's that? What's that? They're going to need somebody who knows these shows. It seems that way anyway.
Yeah, I just really feel like there's no getting around. If you really want to enjoy the show, I haven't seen it yet, obviously. It feels like you should watch the essential episodes of Rebels and Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's. I think, I mean, to me, Rebels is going to be, this is the live action version of it. And then,
I mean, if you just want to care about Ahsoka more.
Yeah. I mean, I am going to have Freddie Prinze Jr. on this show. I think our episode is going to air on Monday. You better bet your ass I'm going to ask him about, like, he did a voice in episode 9 for Kanan. I wonder if they're going to use a voice for him. But then after all of his comments about how Filoni directed that scene in Rogue One and the pushback that, I wonder if he got any phone calls from Lucasfilm about that. I don't think he has anything to do with that show. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near it. But I'm curious to hear his thoughts. I will be asking him about that for sure. But yeah, I think that you're gonna definitely, like this. I guess this goes back to our point with The Mandalorian, right? If you're not going to rely on people to have watched those shows, then you're gonna have to give them history of things that happen on Rebels inside of this. You're gonna have to teach us who Ezra was. You're going to have to teach us who Kanan was. You're going to have to teach us Hera's going to pop up. And if you're watching the show, who the hell's that? You got to explain it a little bit more. Oh, well, she fought with us in this. She did this with us too. Rebels fans are going to know. But like people who saw this trailer say, well, that looks cool. A lot of lightsabers. I'm going to tune into it for the first time and see. I don't even know who this Ahsoka is. You've got to do what they didn't do in Mandalorian with Bo-Katan and the history and give us the history. I'm hoping that the episodes are longer, just saying, because you're going to be getting really tired of me, if you aren't already, because I know I'm tired of saying it, going, Steph, Ahsoka was great this week. 34 minutes? What are we doing?
Yeah.
Because that's a concern.
Yeah, I really hope the episodes are longer. I'm curious what they'll do. Like, Dave Filoni is so trusted in animation and with The Mandalorian. Interesting. It will be like really exciting to see what he does dialogue wise. And I know that quote at the end just said like there's going to be more silence, which I'm just such a fan of great dialogue that I'm curious to see how that plays out.
If it's silence during lightsaber fights, good.
Oh yeah.
I don't need like a full on conversation through it, and if I see it through eyes and stuff. But I'm clearly with you. Like when it comes to if you're gonna have episodes and you're gonna put like if you're gonna all right, well here's what you get. You can either have a 45-minute episode with 8 extra minutes of cool explosions and lightsaber fights, or you can use those 8 minutes to develop the story and the characters. Give me the second option all day long.
All day.
Yeah. All right. So many questions for you guys. Are you liking what you're hearing about the Acolyte? Do you like what you're hearing about Ahsoka? Do you think people are going to be able to catch on to Ahsoka if you didn't watch Rebels? Did you watch Rebels? Did you watch Clone Wars? Do you have any clue who these people are? Please comment and let me know in the comment section. And obviously give me your thoughts on The Mandalorian. All right, for our good friend Steph Sabraw. Steph, besides April 28th, where can the kids find you?
Definitely April 28th, but just at Steph Sabraw.
At Steph Sabraw. And speaking of that show, please come check us out. Steph will be there. Mike will be there. Winston, Brett, Coy, Roxy, Kate, and myself doing stand-up for the first half. Second half is the podcast. The podcast version will be available to live stream. You can get those tickets now. TheChristianHarloff.com. Do it. If you're brand new to the channel, you've never been here before, show a little. Will you just announce? Hit that button. Get us to 100,000. Please and thank you. All right. For Steph Sabraw and myself, thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate you. And we'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.